Hello traders, this is Blake Morrow with ForexAnalytix and you're watching the week ahead video for February 25th, 2018. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. Now before we get started, as always, I want to mention if you're not a ForexAnalytix subscriber, make sure you try us out. It's only $1 for 10 days. Try it out, and once you do that, download the mobile app from the Google Play Store, the Apple Store, and then you can have all of our analysis and all the updates right in the palm of your hand. Now, once you do log in, you're going to see this page, and this is going to give you a good overview of what's happening in the markets. You know, one of the strengths of ForexAnalytix is being able to quickly look at any currency pair and see if all the analysis is matching up one direction or the other. And not always are you going to have all types of analysis going in the same direction, but when you do, it gives you that extra confidence that you should be looking in the bearish or bullish direction. And that's really the key here. When we, as analysts for ForexAnalytix, we don't discuss our outlooks necessarily because we don't want to influence each other in how we see the markets. So and that's for you to really decide. So when you see all the different type of analysis matching up in one direction, or at least mostly in that direction, like for example in the euro yen, it shows pretty bearish outlooks for all types of analysis. That gives you that confidence that, hey, maybe I should be looking on the short side. Therefore, I'll breeze through this analysis and kind of see where the best place for a possible short entry might be, and take into account everybody's different outlooks. Anyway, try us out. Hope you like it. Now let's talk about a couple key events happened this week, and really the biggest key event, if you ask me, was well, let's take a look at the reversal that we saw in the euro earlier this week. Now, what happened in the euro dollar that was so important was that we had this false breakout above 120, 125, okay? And that has led us to this channel support. And I'm a little skeptical, and I was, if you were listening to our broadcast towards the end of the week on Thursday and Friday, I was very skeptical of the bounce that we saw here off of this trendline support. And even into the end of the session on Friday, the euro dollar was still trading fairly heavy. I mean, we traded right around 123. And I still think the risk is that we break lower. Now, the question is, how far down are we going to go? We do have a pretty big week this week upcoming with ECB President Draghi is going to be speaking on Monday. We have the new Fed Chairman, Chairman Powell is going to be testifying on two different occasions, on Tuesday and Thursday. And even though this is not non-farm payroll week, we do believe that the Fed chairman is probably going to set the tone for not only the dollar, but also on his views on the economy. And this is important because we have a new head of the FOMC. So, and that literally could make or break the dollar early this week. So keep that in mind. Next week we have non-farm payroll, and so that's going to be important. But for this week, really Tuesday's testimony from the Fed chairman is going to be ultra important. Now, what we're looking at is if the euro dollar does come down, or the dollar continues its bounce, which I'll look at the dollar index here in a few minutes. The real key support is going to be down here at like the 121 level, or 120.80 that was over here on the big breakout. That's going to be key, even if the dollar does strengthen a little bit further. There's going to be, this is a very high trafficked area. Big breakout point for the euro dollar. So any dips down towards 121 or just sub 121 are going to probably at least find some buyers. I don't think the tone of the Fed chair is going to be so different that it's going to shift the outlook of the dollar completely. But it may. I mean, we maybe the Fed chairman really sets a very hawkish tone at the FOMC, and then banks start looking at 4 interest rate hikes in 2018 for sure. And if that mentality shifts a little bit, or those outlooks shift a little bit, maybe we do trade below 121. But I think 121 is going to be a pretty key support for the euro dollar on the way back down. And another pair I'd like to point out is the pound. The pound's actually been trading pretty weak here, and we got a decent bounce on Friday. You can see that we bounced, we probed some support, but the pound is also trading somewhat heavy as well, and we could trade down into the mid 130s once again, especially if the dollar gets a little bit of a tailwind across the board. You take a look at other currency pairs like the Aussie dollar and the Kiwi dollar. We found some support like in the Aussie ahead of the 200-day moving average, but if the dollar does strengthen and the Aussie breaks through that 200-day moving average, we're liable to give up all of this move back that we picked up through early December and through the holidays, because this is a very explosive move in the Aussie. I would be very surprised to see it all retrace, and I think a lot of traders that are long the Aussie dollar would probably be a little surprised as well. So watch that 200-day moving average going into next week. The Kiwi dollar has actually been outperforming the Aussie. Now, if you look at the Kiwi dollar and you go, wow, well, it really has been outperforming the Aussie, and you could see it in the Aussie New Zealand. The Aussie New Zealand, and by the way, I'll come back to the Kiwi dollar. The Aussie New Zealand, as you see here, there it is. The Aussie New Zealand, we still have some downside. I mean, it's possible that the Aussie New Zealand trades back down to 105, and that means that the Kiwi dollar might continue to outperform the Aussie, at least for a while. But going back to the Kiwi dollar, you'll notice this big double top setting up here. Big double top setting up here. I mean, if we break through the 200-day moving average, which would be the very low end of this trend, I mean, the Kiwi all of a sudden is pointing back down at 70. Now, it's hard for me to visualize that right now. It's hard for me to sit back and think, the dollar is going to strengthen to a point where the Kiwi really starts to break down. However, some of that might have to do with the stock market. And let's talk about that for a second. This is the S&P, and this is a dynamic view of the S&P. So I could take I could actually draw a little bit on it. You'll notice that we're at the 618 retracement once again. The recovery process of the S&P is getting to a point where the market might be more complacent at this stage, meaning that traders might feel that, hey, I can step back into the stock market because we had this nice little shakeout. Now we're heading back to all-time highs. And that's usually the mentality that you get after a big sell-off like this, that we're going to go to all-time highs, but this could end up being a bull trap. So, should we go up, like, let's say another 50 points in the S&P to get us up towards this 2800? If we do turn lower from there, then what does that do? Does that if we do something like this and we turn lower from here, does that continue to strengthen the dollar? And maybe that's how, and that's what makes this Kiwi dollar double top really play out. I don't know, and it's hard for me to justify that without seeing the S&P actually turn, because going back to Friday's price action, the S&P closed near its highs of the week. So it's pretty strong move in the Kiwi dollar as well. Now, one last thing I want to talk about. Well, actually, let's say two last things. Let's go over to the dollar index really fast. Let's just skip by it. There it is. Okay. So let's go over to the dollar index, and the dollar index really pivoted off of a 618 retracement, a big weekly support. That's these lows from right here all the way to the highs. It's 2014 to 2017. We're at a 618, okay, and it's a really critical fib level. You can see possible trendline support. The dollar could very well bounce. Now, the one issue that I have with the dollar is what if the bond market, and let's talk about bonds for a second. What if the bond market really starts to bounce here? All right, and if you look at the bond market and look how it's shaping up, if bonds rally, let me get over I want to give you a live view of the bond market. You see the bond market really starts to rally. That means yields are coming down. So the question is, if bonds go up and yields go down, is it possible for the dollar to actually rally when bond yields are going down? Is it possible that bonds recover and the dollar recovers at the same time? And the only way that I could see that happening, and I may be wrong here, and I'm not always right, that's for sure. But the way that could actually happen in my mind is that the stock market actually does turn lower and the market turns risk off, and investors start looking for safe investments or a safe place to put their money, which would be in cash or the dollar and or bonds. So we're going to have to keep a really close eye on the bond market and the relationship that it has with the dollar. And if the bond market does continue to rally and yields drop, will that allow for the dollar to continue to recover as well? I think it's a big question. It's hard for me to see that unless stocks are coming down. And right now, you see how they closed on Friday. They closed pretty strong in a bullish direction. So it's hard for me to actually see that at this very second in time. Anyway, it should be a very interesting week. And again, the really key components of this week are going to be, the new Fed chairman and his testimony, both Tuesday and Thursday. Although the testimony will be the same on Thursday, the question and answer part will not. So that's important. Also, a couple other things that are happening this week. On Tuesday, we have durable good orders here in the U.S. We also have consumer confidence. On Wednesday, we have preliminary GDP. We have private capital expenditures or private capex out of Australia. Thursday morning, we have manufacturing PMI out of the UK. We also have ISM manufacturing PMIs on Thursday. It's kind of like a precursor to NFP for next week. And then on Friday, we have construction PMI out of the UK. Carney is also speaking. The Bank of England Carney is speaking also Friday morning, and we have Canadian GDP on Friday. So a lot of good stuff happening this week. I think it's going to be a nice volatile week once again. And I also want to say, hey guys and gals, if you like this video, make sure you click on the thumbs up button on the YouTube video. It really motivates us to continue to post these videos for you for free. And then also subscribe to the video so you never subscribe to our channel, so you never miss an interview. Dale Pinkert, he has some great interviews each and every week that we post back up on YouTube if you missed them live, so you don't want to miss those. Guys and gals, I hope you have a great trading week this week. My name is Blake Morrow. You're listening to the ForexAnalytix Week Ahead video. Thanks, and have a wonderful trading week.